A new addiction crisis. Treatment centers face financial collapse. Welcome back, everybody. You are watching or listening to the Position Recovery Podcast. This is Financial Week. Zach and I have been having an awesome discussion about financial stuff, and the conclusion is that we're barely scratching the tip of the iceberg. And so as you guys progress through this podcast episode of Financial Week, I'm just afraid that we're not going to cover the most important things. So just listen to what we're saying. We're having just a fun conversation. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's a mindset. So if you really want to grab this and go, take this further, go listen to Dave Ramsey. Mm-hmm. This isn't a promotion for Dave Ramsey. I just know that I don't even know him, but I just know that he's been, he's led a lot of people to financial freedom, not in the sense that they become rich, but they get out of debt and then they live productive lives and they're not wasteful. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. It's not paycheck anymore. It's
exactly
my life to the fullest, what I have.
So we are going to move to the news segment. And I said it slower because I've been listening to our podcast and I go, we have a news segment. And it sounds like I'm saying we have a new segment. And I'm like, no, we have a news segment. And I might have to just say that in a different way. Our news article today, which I haven't even read, so guys, forgive me if I don't read it right, but here's the headline. A new addiction crisis. Treatment centers face financial collapse. That's from NPR. Let me just read the first headline or the first paragraph, and then we'll maybe see if that can drive a conversation on this. It says, fewer patients in recent months have been showing up for drug and alcohol treatment at Reach Health Services in Baltimore, but Dr. Olson, the medical director here, suspects it's not for good reasons. Some have likely relapsed or delayed drug and alcohol addiction treatment, while others likely fear infection and have stayed home. I think there's enough just right in there to drive this because we've already been talking about it. Yeah. It just is what it is. It's not good or bad or negative or positive or speaking death or life or anything. It's just it has happened. The pandemic happened. A lot of people don't know how to manage life anyways. And so now you throw a pandemic on top of that. And now some people I imagine are falling into relapse just simply because they're feeling bad. But some of them are, I found a million excuses. If I'm going to drink, I'm going to find an excuse. And you know what? If I was in my active addiction, I'd have said, hey, this sounds like a great time to use or drink, right? Nobody's going to be like against me for that, Yeah. And so I think that for all the different reasons, there are certainly more people relapsing.
Yep.
And people are afraid to go to treatment centers maybe. And so that kind of goes back on that whole digital thing that we were talking about. Does. What is the headline here? What's your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts are, of course, we have to play the part that goes, well, the pandemic. Obviously, people are going to act crazy. Just everything you said right there. But there is another aspect that I would say is probably about 40% of it. Is that a lot of these big programs that get the massive fundings, a lot of them, majority, 90%, they're awful. They suck. They don't have good success rates. They have like a 10% success rate, and just all this stuff. So that really starts to come up. Right now, especially right now where we're at in 2021, the awful success rate really starts to show when awful success rate is met with people are relapsing because of the season. Yeah. So then you start realizing, wait, we have like no one graduating, you know what I mean? Or stuff like that. And so I've been in the recovery field. Our pastors we run transitional housings, and we have I would like to toot our own horn. We have a pretty darn good success rate, but that also is based out of people. We only let people in that actually want to change. That's the big issue with a lot of these huge recovery facilities. They're based around people that don't necessarily want to change. They're told they have to change, or they're going back to jail. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so that's another area, another topic, but absolutely everything you said, it kind of summed it up itself. the biggest thing for me is just look at the program. Most of them aren't about relationship. We talked about that in the few podcasts we've had so far. It's all about relationship. Most of these places aren't establishing a relationship. They're just cramming knowledge down your throat and making you pay for it.
Yeah, I went to, like I said in a previous episode, I went to a Kaiser Permanente rehab, and it was an inpatient, like about a month-ish. And I enjoyed that they had food. They had AA people come in and do an AA meeting, but they had classes and things like that. I do value the information that I learned while I was there, but it had absolutely zero. I'm telling you, it just had no impact on my success, right? Exactly. Now, I draw back on those as early recovery memories, right? And I think that it was great that I can say this was the beginning. And that's just what it was. Now, I do believe that because I started there, it did at least start my journey. And if I didn't start there, my journey would have been prolonged to start somewhere else, right? So it is part of the process. We do need to have the information there. And it is important for us to know things about our addictions. Like I learned about the receptor sites and the dendrites and all these kind of medical terms, and it started to make sense. I'm like, oh, that's why I want to quit alcohol, but then tomorrow I just forget about it and I go drink again. Yeah. And then have another, and then somebody can get a DUI and then they're drinking the next day. Like there's some chemical or chemistry, physics things that are going on in there. That was cool to know, but guess what? Didn't have any effect on my whether I was going to drink or not. I just now knew kind of why. Right. So what I think this boils down to, and actually where I want to go in this discussion is because we're seeing the recovery community talk about like online and all these major institutions, there's clearly there's this dual thing going on where you've got homeless, drug addict people that can't afford anything, and then you've got like the HMO medical facilities that are some of these things cost like $20,000 for you to go to, or $10,000. Who can afford that, right? And then where's the money coming from for people that, Joe Smith, who's homeless, gets to go to rehab? Who's paying for it? He's not paying for it.
Actually, that brings up the one debt I did inherit from my wife. Was her, I think it was ADAPT. But she went, had treatment. You don't have to pay for it right away most of the time. Usually maybe a down payment or something, but it was thousands of dollars. Yeah,
my insurance paid for the Kaiser Permanente one.
Yeah,
so.
It was thousands of dollars, and it was just debt. We had to pay on it a set amount a month. Yeah, we did slowly chip away at it, like $20 a month, until we were able to go, hey, you know what? We have a little bit extra money. Let's just wipe it out, and get that out of here, which is rad. But at the same time, let's look at how that affects people. Welcome to the podcast now. We're talking about bridging the gap in the system because what happens is you have someone that is homeless, doesn't have an income, they're just addicted to their drugs, they have no money saved, they've burned all their bridges to their family. This is just every person we encounter every day. They already have huge amounts of debt. If you're a guy, almost guaranteed to have child support back pay that you have to thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. You have fees to pay for courts. You've already lost your license. Most of these guys don't have their social security card or their birth certificate with them. So even when they get out of jail and they're popped right back where they were and they're expected to be at certain places at certain times without any money, without a job, without a license, without a way to get a license, all this stuff, add more debt on top of it. They go to treatment, get more debt on top of it, make it impossible, more and more impossible for things to happen. You wonder why we're seeing the same people back in jail again and again, because guess what? Jail becomes the only place that'll take care of you. Yeah. And so that's where, in my personal opinion, where the church needs to step in and bridge the gap, or a faith-based organization, in my point of view, because that's where relationship is. That's where I find real relationship. But bridging that gap there, because that is an obvious not working. Two wrongs don't make a right. So that's the huge part right there.
Yeah, in the future, we are going to do a future episode. I got some guests lined up to do. We're going to do some stuff about recidivism. Yep, that'll be a whole nother topic as far as the recovery goes. But that we'll deal with. What do we do going forward? Because it's really everybody's problem. We can't just say, somebody who thinks that they're like, I have a $500,000, I'm retired, I live up on the hill, and I come into town and all these homeless people are here. Well, guess what? That's part of your problem.
It is.
It's not, this world wasn't built and everybody around you is an accessory to your life. Like, you're in this life, I'm in this life, Zach's in this life, and Joe Smith, and I'm just making him a name, walking down the street with a shopping cart is part of this life.
Yeah.
And he is a person, and he's not an accessory to your life and something that we can just hit the delete button on.
Yeah. So. And honestly, quick plug here. If you are like, well, how do I help? How do I help? Well, honestly, don't just be part of the issue and just voice how awful things are. Obviously, you want to find someone that's already actually helping. You don't have to, reinvent the wheel.
Totally.
Find someone that's already helping. For example, us. We're doing a lot.
Absolutely.
Not just the podcast. We're doing a lot outside this podcast that you guys might not ever get to see. And honestly, if you do choose to give to this channel, you have no idea how much you are helping what you would call the homeless community and all these other people. You have no idea. I have so many people that I am around now that I call my close friends that I remember when they were so-and-so on the street, mindless, kicking a can, and totally not talking, and now they're business owners.
Totally. And we are going to have people, so some of our guests in the future aren't even to be like experts in a field. They're going to be people that we've walked with and walked through. So looking forward to that. Thank you for checking out this clip from the Position Recovery Podcast. The entire podcast is available on our other channel. There's a link in the description box below, so you can go check it out. The full audio program is available on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify, Pandora, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Finally, if you'd like access to exclusive members-only content, or maybe you just want to support us in what we're doing financially, head on over to patreon.com/position, where there are a variety of giving levels and one that is perfect for your budget. It's always awesome hanging out with you guys. And remember, many are called, but you are positioned.